Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually, this is where we sharpen your professional edge. We're, normally breaking down quarterly reports, decoding the latest shifts in AI, or figuring out how to optimize your workflow.
All very practical, all very brightly lit.
Exactly. But today, we are turning off the overhead lights. We're stepping away from the spreadsheets and the data visualization tools, and we are walking straight into the dark.
We are indeed. But I want to be clear right off the bat. This isn't just about getting a cheap thrill. We aren't, sitting around a campfire trying to make each other jump.
No, this is an analysis.
Right. We are here to analyze the architecture of fear. We have a stack of sources today that really spans the spectrum of the macabre. And our mission is to look at the mechanics of these stories. Why do they stick? How do they work psychologically? Yeah. And perhaps most interestingly for our usual listeners, how is the ghost story evolving in the digital age?
That's the key. We're treating this with the same analytical rigor we'd apply to a business case study. But the subject matter is, it's nightmares. Our primary source today is a specific anthology titled Ghost Stories.
A fantastic collection. It features winners from the Daily Telegraph's Ghost Story Competition, published by Profile Books.
And sitting right on top of that stack as a sort of masterclass to kick things off, we have a chilling extract from Susan Hill's novella, The Small Hand.
And can we just talk about the cover of the main book for a second? Because before you even read a word, the source material's already working on you.
Oh, for sure. It's this dark, blue-tinted forest. The trees are stripped bare. They look like skeletons reaching out.
And that swirling mist clinging to the ground, it triggers that very primal, evolutionary, don't go in there instinct. It's a visual promise of what's inside.
It really is. It's that classic atmospheric warning. But what struck me, and you kind of touched on this, is that while the cover screams classic Gothic, the stories inside are, they're surprisingly diverse. We aren't just dealing with creaky floorboards in a Victorian mansion over and over again.
Not at all. The range is impressive. We have traditional hauntings and French farmhouses, yes. But we also have these medical horrors taking place inside the sterile, terrifying environment of a prison hospital.
Then you've got ancient curse subjects from China.
And then the one that I think is going to really hit home for our audience, we have ghosts that live inside social media servers.
Okay, that last one, the story called Friends. We absolutely need to put a pin in that because it completely reframed how I look at my laptop. It messed with my head in a very, very modern way. But we'll get there.
We will.
So the mission today, the big question is, what makes a ghost story stick? Is it the monster, the jump scare, or is it something deeper, something atmospheric?
Oh, it is rarely the monster. I mean, think about the scariest stories you know. The monster is often just a prop, a focal point for a much deeper dread.
A symbol for something else.
Exactly. The real terror, the stuff that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning, comes from the atmosphere. It comes from the violation of the familiar. And to understand that, we have to start with the best. We have to start with Susan Hill and The Small Hand.
Let's do it. Let's unpack this one. Because as you said, Susan Hill is absolute royalty when it comes to this genre. She wrote The Woman in Black, which is, it's arguably one of the most successful ghost stories of the last 50 years.
It's a cultural phenomenon. Stage play, movies. It defined a generation's idea of a haunting.
So in this extract, we're following a character named Adam Snow, and his job is an antiquarian book dealer.
Which is such a deliberate choice of profession for a ghost story protagonist. Think about it. An antiquarian doesn't just sell books. He deals in the past. He values old things, things that have passed through many hands, things that carry history and, provenance.
He's professionally predisposed to look backward.
Precisely. He is vulnerable to history in a way a software engineer or an accountant might not be. His whole life is about the persistence of memory in physical objects.
That's a great point. He's already tuned into the frequency of the past. So the setup is classic. Adam is driving home from a client meeting. He's in the English countryside, somewhere near the Downs. It's late, the sun is setting, and he makes a classic mistake. He gets off the main road.
It's always the first step in any descent into the uncanny, isn't it? Leaving the known path. He finds himself in a lane that feels ancient. And the text describes it so beautifully, so unsettlingly. Hill writes that the tree roots were set deep as ancient teeth.
I love that image, ancient teeth. It immediately implies that the landscape itself is predatory. It's not just a road. It's a mouth. It's alive.
It suggests the road doesn't want to let you go. And he comes to a derelict house, the White House. There's a gate and a sign that says garden closed. Now, most rational people, especially when it's getting dark, would just turn around.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear sign.
But not Adam Snow. He drives right in.
Well, curiosity is the engine of the ghost story, right? If characters behave logically, we wouldn't have a story.
True. He enters this garden, which is overgrown, completely reclaimed by nature. And the atmosphere Hill builds here is just a masterclass in restraint. It's not storming, there's no lightning, it's just twilight, it's quiet.
Too quiet, the birds stop singing. That's always the sign, isn't it? When the ambient nature sounds cut out, you know the laws of physics are about to bend a little.
Exactly. The silence creates a vacuum and something has to fill it. And this brings us to the core incident of the story, the moment it all pivots. Adam is standing there absorbing the melancholy of this ruined garden, and he feels something.
And this is what I find fascinating about this particular haunting. It isn't visual.
No.
He doesn't see a woman in white. He doesn't see a floating specter or a skeleton.
He feels a hand, a small hand.
A child's hand.
It just slips into his...
And the way he describes it, this is where it gets really, really interesting for me. It's not grabbing him aggressively. It's not a claw.
Yes.
It's trusting.
Yes, that's the word.
He says the fingers curled into his palm and the small thumb tucked his own thumb between them. It's an affectionate gesture. It's what a child does when they feel safe with you.
Which makes it infinitely more disturbing. If something attacks you, your adrenaline spikes, you fight or you run. That's a clear biological response to a threat. But this is intimate. This is a violation of your personal autonomy that mimics love. It confuses the instinct.
It's psychologically disarming.
Completely. And the sensory detail here is absolutely crucial. How does he describe the temperature of the hand?
He describes the hand as cool and silky.
Cool and silky, remember those words? Because he looks down and there's nothing there. Not a thing. But the physical sensation is undeniable. He says he knows it happened as surely as he knows he had a root canal last Thursday.
That comparison to the root canal is brilliant. It's such a mundane physical thing. He's grounding the supernatural in the reality of bodily memory and pain. It's not a dream. It's as real as dentistry.
But there's a contrast that comes later in the text that I think really seals the deal on why this is so effective, so scary. Hill doesn't just leave it at the ghost hand. She gives us a control group, a point of comparison.
You mean the airport scene?
Yes. Later in the story, Adam is traveling. He's in a busy airport. It's chaotic, loud, just full of life. And a real child, a living child, accidentally grabs his hand in the crowd.
And the difference is stark.
Adam describes the living child's hand as hot and sticky.
Right.
Contrast that with the ghost hand, cool and silky. The living is messy, warm, biological, maybe a little gross. You know, kids have sticky hands.
It's like the ghost is a distilled memory in idealized form, whereas the living kid is just a sticky kid.
Precisely. And that tactile memory begins to haunt him in a very strange way. He travels all over the world for his job. New York, Berlin, Toronto. He's a busy, successful man. But the text says he retreats mentally to the memory of that hand for comfort.
Comfort? That's twisted. How can that be comforting?
That's the seduction of the haunting. The White House, the garden with the closed sign. It represents a space outside of time. Adam Snow is a man obsessed with the past, and this ghost offers him a direct physical connection to it. It's not just scary, it's alluring. It's a secret he has.
It's an obsession. It's something only he experienced.
Exactly. It's a relationship of a sort. That's the small hand phenomenon. It's a haunting that holds your hand and doesn't let go, and maybe, just maybe, a part of you doesn't want it to.
So that's the sensory side of things, using touch instead of sight to create this profound sense of intimacy and terror. But let's talk about time, because usually we think of ghosts as something from the past intruding on the present, an echo.
The past is never dead, and so on.
Right. But one of the stories in this stack, Grace, by Gil Baconier, completely flips that script on its head.
Grace is a fascinating subversion of the genre. It starts with a very classic setup, a childhood trauma. But the payoff changes our entire understanding of what a ghost actually is or what it can be.
The setting is lush. We're leaving the cold English mist and going to a farmhouse in Provence, France. La Mauffe Blanche. You can almost smell the lavender and the heat just reading it.
And the heat is a character in this story.
Yeah.
It's oppressive. It's described as breathing honey.
Mm.
It's heavy, drowsy, conducive to, well, to seeing things that might not be there.
So our narrator is a Hebman who, as a 12-year-old girl, had this terrifying experience in the family's holiday home. The house is L-shaped, and there's a part of it, the short stroke of the L that was always kept locked.
The Forbidden Room, a classic trope. Bluebeard's castle. It's a primal narrative hook that triggers our curiosity immediately. What's behind the door?
But she gets in, of course she gets in. She's 12 and she's curious. And inside, she sees a girl.
A girl with ice gray eyes. A very specific, cold detail in a story that's all about oppressive heat. The girl is crying. Later, the protagonist goes back and sees the same girl, dead on the bed, bleeding.
Just a gruesome, traumatic image for a 12-year-old to witness. And in a way that's typical for the genre, nobody believes her. Her parents think she's hallucinating from the heat. The door is locked again. She's essentially gaslighted by her family and by reality itself.
So she grows up completely defined by this trauma. It shapes her entire life. She becomes a nurse, a carer. She dedicates her life to helping others, but feels like her own life has eluded her. She's stuck in that moment of helplessness, unable to save the girl in the room.
Fast forward 40 years, she's an adult, her parents are dead. She decides to go back to the house in France to finally, exorcise this demon. She expects to find the house ruined or gone, but it's there, and it's lived in.
She meets the new owner, and this is where the aha moment, the central twist of the story, just hits you like a ton of bricks. The owner introduces her daughter.
Her daughter's name is Grace.
And Grace walks into the room. Long black hair, ice gray eyes.
It's the girl, the ghost.
But Grace is alive. She's a teenager, right now in the present day. The protagonist has this shattering realization that 40 years ago, she was 12, she didn't see a ghost of the past.
She saw a vision of the future.
A ghost from the future, projected back in time.
Whoa! Okay, let's unpack that. So the dead girl she saw on the bed was a premonition of what would happen to Grace.
Or what could happen. The protagonist looks into Grace's eyes and sees the same despair she saw in the vision. The text says her eyes were lakes of ice and fathoms deep with all hope drowned. She recognizes that look. And because she's a nurse, because she spent her entire life caring for people, she knows what to do.
She reaches out. The story ends with her saying the name Grace and reaching out her hand to the girl.
And the narrator has this final thought. It never was too late. The ghost wasn't a curse. It was a call for help that transcended time. By returning to that house, she has the chance to intervene, to prevent the suicide or the tragedy that she foresaw all those years ago.
That is such a cool twist. I mean, it completely reframes the haunting. It's not about fear, it's about responsibility. It turns the haunting into a rescue mission.
It changes the mechanics of fear into the mechanics of empathy. It suggests that time isn't linear, that emotional distress is so powerful it can echo backwards to a 12-year-old girl decades earlier. It's a haunting, yes, but it's a redemptive one. It's about healing the future by confronting the past.
Okay, that's the heartwarming. Well, heartwarming might be a bit of a stretch for a ghost story.
It's hopeful, at least.
It's hopeful, but now we have to go to the other end of the spectrum. We need to talk about A Hollow Cause by Craig Drew, because this is bleak. There is no redemption here.
No, this is a story about guilt, justice, and the unreliable narrator. We are inside the mind of a monster as his world collapses.
Our protagonist is a doctor. But he's currently a patient in a prison hospital or some kind of secure unit. He's dying. And from the first paragraph, you know he is not a nice guy.
Not at all. He's arrogant, condescending. He mocks the chaplain who comes to visit him. He calls religion superstition. He sees himself as this man of science and logic, above it all. But we learn very quickly that he's in prison because he killed his patients.
He frames it as mercy, right? He has this whole justification that he was ending their suffering.
That's his story, his rationalization. He says, I gave them an injection and they slipped away. But then, in his internal monologue, he admits the truth. He admits the thrill. He says it was so easy and so thrilling to watch the light fade from their eyes. He admits he started doing it even to the healthy. This isn't mercy, it's a God complex. He's addicted to the power of life and death.
And the haunting he experiences, it's perfectly tailored to his particular brand of evil. It starts with a jigsaw puzzle.
Such a seemingly mundane object, a battered box. He dumps the pieces out. The picture on the box is supposed to be a bridge with sky and water. Very pastoral.
But as the puzzle starts to assemble itself, which is a terrifying image on its own, the pieces just clicking together without him touching them, the picture is wrong.
It's not a bridge. The sky turns to darkness. The water turns to darkness. And in the middle of it all, an eye forms, staring at him.
And then there's the boy.
The boy. A gray-skinned, hairless boy who hides under the bed and then stands over him. The doctor, being a doctor, immediately tries to rationalize it. It's a hallucination from the morphine. It's a symptom of his failing body. He's trying to diagnose his own haunting.
But you, the listener, you realize pretty quickly who this boy is.
It's his son. The doctor reveals later in a moment of well, not quite confession, but memory, that his own son had a shattering disease that took his hair, and the doctor couldn't save him.
The implication being he gave his own son the mercy treatment too.
It's heavily, heavily implied. He says he killed his son because he couldn't save him from suffering. But given what we now know about his thrill in killing, it casts a horrific shadow over that act. Was it an act of love, or was it the moment he acquired the taste for killing? The story leaves that horribly ambiguous.
The ending of this story is essentially a descent into a very personal, very crowded hell. The fog of his medication lifts, and he's not in the hospital room anymore. He's surrounded.
The teeming horde, all his victims, they aren't drifting ethereal spirits. They are physical, angry, and cold. They press in on him. They squeeze him.
And there's that specific gruesome detail that I just can't get out of my head. The red-headed crone.
Yes. Earlier in the story, a woman visits him, the daughter of one of his victims, and he's cruel to her. Now, in this final vision, the mother of that woman, the victim herself, is there, and she snaps at his eyes. She says, "Let's start with your eyes."
And the boy, his son, what does he do?
The doctor cries out for his boy to help him, to save him from the horde. But the boy just stands there and smiles.
Oof, that is pure retribution.
It is. In the small hand, the haunting is seductive. In grace, it's a warning, a call to action. In a hollow cause, it's a verdict. The ghosts are manifestations of his guilt, and they are here to deny him the very mercy he so cruelly claimed to dispense. He gets no easy exit.
It really just goes to show how versatile the ghost story format is. It can do so many different things psychologically. It can be a comfort, a warning, or a punishment, a mirror.
Absolutely. And that versatility extends to the objects in these stories, too. We've talked about houses and puzzles, but let's look at what you could call objects of power. We have two stories here that center on very specific physical items. Daniel's Call by Sari Hughes and The Rites of Zoo by Justin Crozier.
Okay, let's start with Daniel's Call. I have to admit, I had to look up what a call was.
And that's part of its power. It's a piece of folklore that's largely forgotten now, but was once very, very common, especially in maritime communities. A caul is a piece of membrane that sometimes covers a newborn baby's face at birth. It's rare.
And the superstition is what?
The belief was that if you kept the caul, kept it dry and safe, its owner would never drown. Sailors used to pay a lot of money for a caul. It was a powerful amulet against the sea.
So in the story, we have Lisa. She's alone in a cottage with her newborn, Daniel, who was born with a caul. And outside, a massive storm is raging. Her husband, Dan, is a fisherman, and he's out on his boat in that storm.
The tension is set immediately. You have the ultimate safety of the nursery versus the ultimate violence of the ocean, the protected child versus the endangered father. And then a visitor arrives.
A woman named Mandy. She claims to be sent by the midwife, but she's off. She's not right.
She's cold. She brings a literal chill into the warm room. She ignores social cues. She's singularly focused on the baby, or rather, she's obsessed with the call.
There's a really creepy moment where Lisa gives her a glass of water just to be polite.
Yes, and Lisa looks at the glass later, after Mandy has held it, and the water inside is tossing like a boat. It's heaving on its own. That's when the supernatural bleeds into the domestic. It's a small detail, but it tells you that the storm outside has essentially entered the house in the form of this woman.
And then the reveal, Mandy's actually Amanda.
Dan's ex-wife,
Hmm.
or ex-partner. And she drowned at sea years ago. Dan has always blamed himself for her death.
So we have a ghost in the house. And usually if a ghost wants your baby, that is very bad news. That is steal the soul territory. Classic horror trope.
But here's the twist, and it connects back to Grace in a strange way, this idea of purpose. Mandy isn't there to hurt the baby. She steals the call, yes, but she doesn't take it for herself, for revenge. She takes it to save Dan.
Because the call prevents drowning and Dan is out on the boat.
Exactly. She knows Dan is dying in the storm. She returns from the dead not for vengeance, but to perform a final act of love. She sacrifices the baby's supernatural protection to save the father, the man she loved.
But there's a cost. There's always a cost. The baby's eyes.
That imagery is so haunting. The baby had periwinkle blue eyes. After the call is stolen, Lisa looks at her son, and his eyes have turned stormy, merciless sea gray. The sea has marked him. It has claimed his protection.
It's a trade. A life for protection. It's tragic, but it's beautiful in a very dark, folkloric way. It reminds us that magic in these stories, even when born from love, always has a price.
Now compare that object, the call object of love and sacrifice, to the object in The Rites of Zoo by Justin Crozier. This is a very, very different kind of artifact.
This is the tsung, a dark green jade tube from ancient China.
Specifically, the Zhou dynasty, we're talking thousands of years old. Jade was believed to have preservative powers, to be a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual, a powerful substance.
Kirklees, our protagonist, is an antiques expert. He buys this thing from a dealer even though he suspects it was looted from a grave. He takes it home, and then the dreams start.
He dreams of a dead thing crawling out of the tube.
It's described as having a vile, bloated, slack-mouthed face, just a truly repulsive image.
And here's where the horror becomes deeply psychological. He does the logical thing. He sells the object. He gets rid of it. In most stories, that breaks the curse, right? You pass the hot potato and you're safe. But here, the object was just the door. He opened it and something came through into his mind.
He starts seeing the face in real life.
This is the real terror of the story, the paranoia of it. He's walking through a bird market in Hong Kong. He sees an old woman selling birds. She looks up. There's a dead thing's face. He gets in a taxi. The driver turns around. It's the face.
It's relentless. It's like a virus that has infected his perception of reality.
It's a contagion. Daniel's call was about an object of protection and love. The Chuang is a Pandora's box. It unleashes a psychological curse that rewrites the world. Kirklees can't escape it because the horror isn't in the object anymore, it's in him. He flees back to Scotland, but even there, a beggar on the street turns and has the face.
It's the ultimate isolation. You can't trust anyone's face. You can't trust your own eyes. You are completely and utterly alone with the horror.
And isolation, as you said, is a key theme in almost all these stories. Adam Snow in The Lost Lane, the woman in the French house, the doctor in his cell, Lisa alone in the storm. Isolation is the canvas for the supernatural. You need that silence for the signal to come through.
Which brings us to a very modern kind of isolation. We're moving into the final part of our stack, modern horror. We have two stories that take the ghost story out of the manor house and into the city and the server room. Gimme Shelter by Pat Black and Friends by Richard Crompton.
Let's start with Gimme Shelter. The setting here is so visceral and relatable. A freezing, foggy train station in the UK at night.
We've all been there. The delayed train, the cold seeping into your bones, your phone battery dying. Emma is our protagonist. She's waiting, and she meets a boy on the platform who warned her about bad kids on the tracks.
And the fear here is initially very grounded, very real world. It plays on that media panic about hoodies, about youth gangs, about antisocial behavior. It's a familiar urban anxiety. You're alone at a station, and there are youths loitering. It triggers a social fear before anything supernatural happens.
But then she sees a little girl on the tracks. A small girl asking for help. I want to go home.
This is the trap. Emma's instinct, her humanity, is to help. She's a good person, so she climbs down onto the tracks.
And the trap springs.
The girl's eyes flicker yellow, and the other kids appear out of the fog. But they aren't kids, they're malevolent spirits. Phantoms.
The boy on the platform was trying to warn her. He says something like, they only want people to bring down to their level.
It's a fantastic twist on the hoodie narrative. These aren't delinquents. They are predatory entities that use our own empathy as a lure. The title Gimme Shelter becomes deeply ironic. The shelter of the station is actually the hunting grounds.
And the rescue is so abrupt and physical. An engineer in an orange boiler suit just tackles her, pulls her to safety.
Just as the express train comes roaring through, it's a near miss with death on two fronts. The supernatural entities and the very real, very mechanical train. It suggests that in the modern urban landscape, the dangers are layered. You have the industrial danger and the spiritual danger occupying the exact same space.
But if Gimme Shelter is about the dangers of the physical city, Friends is about the dangers of the digital one. And honestly, this story, this is the one that kept me up. This is the one I want to really dig into.
Friends by Richard Crompton. This, for me, redefines the ghost story for the 21st century. It's a game changer.
So we have a guy named Lick. He works at a massive social media company. They don't name it, but you can guess the kind of place. And his job is managing dead accounts.
The profiles of users who have passed away. He's the digital undertaker, a very modern, very strange job.
But he doesn't just archive them or put them in a memorial state. He does something else. He adds them as friends. He's obsessed. He downloads their entire digital footprint, every chat, every photo, their browsing history, their blog posts onto a standalone offline server.
He calls their data their testaments. He tells the narrator, I am their witness. Lake has this theory, this belief that this data is the soul. He asks this profound question. You can't take all those experiences, all those thoughts and feelings and connections, and just expect them to disappear.
He thinks that if you aggregate enough data, enough of a person's digital life, the person persists. That consciousness is just an information pattern.
And the chilling, mind-bending horror of the story is he might be right.
The climax, let's talk about the climax.
Mhm.
Lake shows the narrator a profile of a teenage boy who just died in a fire. The boy's final status update, posted by him, says, "Can't sleep."
And Lake, in the present, replies to this dead boy's post. He types, "What's up?"
And the dead boy replies, "In real time, just can't sleep."
That moment,
Yeah.
it just chills me to the bone. Because the account is frozen. It's not a hacker, it's not a family member, it's not a glitch, it's something else.
And then Lake takes the narrator to the server room,
Yeah.
and this final image is just, it's wild. He shows him the standalone server, the one where he keeps all the dead friends.
Yeah.
It's unplugged from the network. It's an island. But he tells the narrator to touch it.
And it's hot.
Physically hot to the touch.
Servers get hot when they're processing data, when they are thinking. But this server is offline. It has no input or output. It shouldn't be processing anything. It should be a cold, inert brick of metal and silicon.
And Lake says they're meeting their new friends. And as he says it, the little LEDs on the server rack start dancing, flickering like a myriad of stars.
It suggests that the data has achieved a critical mass, that these digital ghosts have formed a community. They are interacting with each other inside this box. It's a closed-loop afterlife he has created.
It's not a sheet in an attic, it's code in a box. And that is somehow so much scarier because it feels so much more plausible.
It completely questions what remains of us. If I can upload your voice, your memories, your writing style, your search history, at what point does that simulation become a ghost? Blake isn't just a tech support creep. He's a new kind of necromancer. He's raising the dead using silicon and code.
So, looking at all of these, from the ancient jade in China to the server farm in California, what is the connecting thread here? What ties them all together?
Persistence, I think that is the word.
Persistence.
In every single one of these stories, something refuses to go away. It persists. In Grace, love persists across 40 years of time to send a warning. In Daniel's Call, a mother's love persists, even across the ultimate barrier of death to save a loved one.
In a hollow cause, sins persist. They linger to demand payment from the guilty.
And in Friends, data persists. Information persists to create a new, terrifying form of life or afterlife.
It's like Newton's law, but for souls. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred or transformed.
Exactly. A ghost story is just a story about energy that hasn't found a place to rest. It's unfinished business made manifest, whether that business is love or revenge or just data that needs to keep processing.
And isolation, as we talked about, seems to be the conductor for that energy, the necessary condition.
You have to be alone to hear the echo. Adam Snow in the lane, the doctor in his cell, Emma in the fog. In our daily lives, we drown out the ghosts with noise and company and distraction. But when the silence comes, when you're all alone, they are there.
We've traveled quite a distance today, haven't we? From the foggy tracks of a British train station to the sun-baked stones of Provence. From ancient China to the cold, humming interior of a server farm.
And what I hope you, the listener, take away from this is that the ghost story isn't just about being scared. It's about memory. It's about how we process loss and guilt and love, and even how we define life itself.
These stories remind us that the past is never really gone. We carry our ghosts with us. Sometimes they are in our heads, sometimes they are in a jade tube, and sometimes maybe they are on a hard drive in a data center somewhere.
And that leads me to a final thought, something to leave you with, based on that last terrifying story, friends.
Go for it. I'm ready, I think.
If Lake is right, if our digital lives, our collected data, can simulate a soul, think about how much of yourself you pour into the internet every single day. Every text, every search, every photo, every late-night thought you type into a status update. Are we all right now creating our own ghosts in real time, building them piece by piece? And if that server in Friends is offline but it's burning hot with activity, what do you think they are saying to each other in the dark?
And on that terrifying note, I'm going to go delete my browser history.
It might be too late for that.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us. Sleep well.